What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubbou here. So no matter where you go, there are gonna be shiny Pokémon, both good and bad. And I know that we have a brand new region in Paldea to consider, but today I'd like to take a look back at the region was just left and dive into Galar. The Gen 8 region gave us a weird array of Pokémon, and some of the shiny options were kind of good, but of course, every generation has to drop the ball somewhere, and they don't even have the excuse of randomly generating them anymore. So let's revisit a series from early 2019 and see if we can fix these shiny Pokémon from the Galar region. Number 6. Raboot. So I know that Cinderace is somehow the most popular starter of the region, not sure why everybody's sleeping on Rillaboom, but whatever. However, I was never a huge fan of Scorbunny, and evolving didn't really do it many favors. Now don't get me wrong, it's no Drizzile, but this moody rabbit is just a little too awkward teenager for me. However, this isn't about the normal Pokemon, it's about its ugly, shiny form. But first we need to address the weird dark gray color in its standard form that isn't found anywhere else in the entire line, which could maybe be passable if it didn't shift the gray to its head in the shiny coloring as well. Now, changing Scorbunny to have the yellowish color instead of the dark orange works pretty well, I feel, and I don't think that a yellow headband should disqualify that on Raboot, so that'll be a nice step in the right direction. And then maybe just change the dull gray to a sort of dark blue, not enough to stand out, but more of a subtle change that just makes it less of an eyesore. Plus it would make it look more like it's wearing the colors of an opposing football team, since that's what this line is supposed to be all about, right? Or, in fact, it could connect it back to the blue that randomly shows up on Cinderace without any clear reason. But it would still create a better through line for this family than anything that Raboot could contribute now with its weird hoodie or whatever. Number 5. Slowpoke. The original Slowpoke shiny is a little underwhelming, not changing all that much from the standard, but looking over at the Galarian version, it's somehow even worse. At least the original didn't get a say in how it would look, so what's the excuse for Colonel Mustard over here? That shade of yellow with the brown is just so unpleasing to the eye, it looks like it turned sour. At least its tongue got to stay pink, I guess, but the weird thing is that its evolutions are not nearly as bad. Slowking looks perfectly fine, and Slowbro is just a sort of cream color, but it's much more appealing than Slowpoke's yellow. The worst that you could say about it is that it kind of clashes with the purple, but it's perfectly inoffensive. Even inverting the colors on Slowpoke would have been better, but I think putting the pink up top would make more sense, with the rest of its body being more of a purple. The yellow never really made sense to me anyway, on the shiny or the regular, since that's not really a psychic-related color, and that's all this Pokemon has now. So a nice pink up top where the brain is cooking up all the psychic powers would be far more appropriate. And the purple could maybe link it more to its evolutions, even though it's not a poison type itself in the first stage, but alternatively, it could link Slowpoke to the source of that poison, with this coloring making it more similar to Shelder. I still don't know how a Shelder like this turns into that spiral thing anyway, but if Slowpoke's shiny looked more like it, then maybe that would provide a reason for why Shelder finds this Pokemon so appealing, perhaps? Number 4. Cubbou. First of all, Cubbou is not my cup of tea. I forget about it like a lot, and when I do remember it, I'm unimpressed. It's just a little too plain to be believable as a legendary Pokemon to me. Its evolution is pretty fine though, with the different forms, but it doesn't help that Cubbou has one of the worst shinies in all of Gen 8, with it only getting a sunburn on its mouth and nothing else. Cubbou was already on thin ice with me because of its mouth being painted on with no real depth, so having that being the only discernible change was comically misguided. It's still not great on Urshifu, but at least it's in more than one spot, so it looks a little better spread out. But if we wanted to improve this tiny karate bear, I think maybe we could just swap the colors around with the black and gray being inverted. When it's evolved, Urshifu just looks a lot cleaner with its brand of shading, so I think if Cubbou leaned into that, it could appear a little more intimidating and might actually be convincing as a fighting type, instead of trying to be the best case in a long while for a new normal legendary. Not saying that it would make Cubbou any more credible as an actual legendary Pokemon, we're not changing anything in its overall design after all, but maybe it would at least make your shiny hunting for it a little more worthwhile. Number 3. The Zigzagoon line. The Zigzagoon line got a big change in Galar, becoming rock and roll enthusiasts, and in doing so becoming dark type, thus kind of proving right all the naysayers in the 1950s that rock was actually evil? But on top of that, they also got a new evolution in Zigzagoon, who is weird but also useful, so I don't really know how I feel about it. But the shiny versions of these Pokemon are just so obnoxious. They are painfully bright neon colors with the pink and also the blue, but it doesn't even make sense because on Linoon and Zigzagoon, the light blue is swapped out for the original pink in the eyes and tongue, but also somehow the gray fur? This level of inconsistency is shocking in a modern game, so we gotta fix this. And maybe you won't agree, but I think harkening back to their original forms would be pretty cool. Or maybe even an inversion of the dark browns being flipped with the tan. And of course, Zigzagoon never had a different form, but it could still be fun to try. I mean, just think. Instead of assaulting your enemy's senses, if they weren't paying attention, you might be able to fool them into thinking that you're a normal type instead of a dark and normal type. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't change that much, but even if you might find these new colors plain, at least they don't hurt your eyes and fly in the face of the very aesthetic that they were trying so hard to craft by trading out their edgy goth cosplay. Number 2, the Sinistee line. I worry that Sinistee and Poltegeist have started a trend of pure ghost types when they should at least be in contention for something more, but I digress. The Pokemon themselves are alright. A haunted teapot is an interesting idea, but the Pokemon's body is not the pot. Rather, the spirits have inhabited some of the residual tea leaves left in the bottom. At least that's what the Pokédex says, so take that authority as you will. But if that's true, then why does the shiny version of this Pokemon change the external man-made shell instead of the actual phantom within? I'm no expert on protoplasm, but I feel like that being the main essence of the Pokemon, it would be the thing to change color, right? And I would say that maybe a nice shade of red would do the trick. I guess you could maybe change the dishware too, and that's definitely what would have happened back in the day, but I think focusing on the specter within would be the right call. And honestly, to me, the contrast between the red and the blue is much better than the double purple that the current shiny gets. I mean, it's not the end of the world if the teapot changes color on the shiny, but when it's just that and not the actual Pokemon itself, it makes me wonder what's even going on here. I mean, it's like the shiny Minior thing all over again. Number 1, Scorched. Listen, I really like the Scorched line. I did use a Colossal instead, but a good fire and bug type that can actually be found before the end of the game is a nice change of pace for Pokemon. I also think that it's got one of, if not the best Gigantamax forms in the entire game. But as far as the shiny version, it's downright embarrassing. They take the dark sort of maroon on the back and turn it into like a teal color that doesn't even fit on a fire type. And it also clashes with all of the other colors that they left untouched with the other reds and oranges. I have no idea what they were even trying to go for, so let's fix it for them. It might be falling back on an old classic, but I think we could change it so that the back and legs of Scorched become black. This not only looks much better than the unsightly teal that didn't even make sense, but it brings across the idea, even subconsciously, that the fire is hotter and stronger, like a charred log from a campfire. That's not to say that it would burn itself or not be able to take its own flames, but then again, it is part bug type, so perhaps its warring halves are in much greater conflict than we knew? Didn't expect to get so deep on a shiny recoloring, huh? Maybe you don't like it, and that's fine. There are plenty of other options that people have done online. Just searching for shiny Scorched should get you started on that. But if we're trying to match the minimalist approach that they opted for in the original, a nice shade of black has never let down a shiny Pokemon yet. Of course, there are many other pretty terrible shiny Pokemon from Gen 8, which is worse than usual since they could have made them at least all make a little bit of sense, if not pleasing to look at. So there's really no excuse on why any of these would be so bad since it's no longer chosen at random. But don't even get me started on the shiny Pokemon from Gen 9. So, those are the top 6 shiny Pokemon from the Galar region I would fix. Which Galar Pokemon do you think should get better shinies? Let me know down in the comments. Also, be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And until next time, stay grounded.